Much awaited, Chris Bishop.
Thank you for your call, Mr Chair. This speech has been very hotly anticipated. I don't think I've had a speech more anticipated than when I spoke to Todd Muller's Super Blues group in Tauranga. And it's good to see that members opposite are so looking forward to this. Mr Chair, quite to the contrary of the assertions from Mr Robertson, I was not on the select committee that considered this bill, although the Finance and Expenditure Committee did do a good job considering this bill. And I want to make a couple of prefatory remarks. The first is that this is clearly a sensible bill, despite the heat and the sort of venom from members opposite. There's actually support this bill. It's a prudent bill that will allow greater flexibility for the Guardians of the New Zealand Superannuation Fund to improve the returns to the fund which they govern on behalf of all New Zealanders. And the other prefatory remark I want to make, sir, is that the Super Fund has done a good job. And I think, some time ago that would have been controversial to say in National Party circles. It would be somewhat controversial to endorse and praise the New Zealand Super Fund, or the Cullen Fund, as members opposite like to talk about. But they have done a good job. Now, that doesn't mean that we should have borrowed money during the global financial crisis and put it into the Super Fund. That doesn't make much sense. The government took the view that it was a prudent and considered use of taxpayers' money not to do that. It doesn't make much sense to borrow money in order to invest it on risky share market exchanges, because at the end of the day you can't beat the market in the long run, and that was the view that the government took. And I know members opposite disagree with that, but I think most New Zealanders agree that that was a sensible thing to do. The second thing I would say, sir, and this does speak to one of the issues that's come up in the committee tonight, is that the independence of the fund is vital. And that's exactly why the Minister is moving, as I understand it, the supplementary order paper in his name to remove the clause from the bill, which allows for ministerial approval of investment classes. Now, members opposite are saying we're tying ourselves in knots on this. I'll just point to the Minister's second reading speech on this, Mr Chair, which is when he acknowledged that this issue is a finely balanced one, or it's a fine line, that there's a diversity of views on this issue. And I acknowledge, sir, that the Finance Committee, which I wasn't a member of, did consider this issue in some detail. But in the passage of time, sir, I think the government has come to the view that the independence of the Super Fund is so paramount that we shouldn't have ministers involved in approving particular asset classes or particular investment classes, sir. It's very important that we maintain the independence of the fund and we don't have politicians involved in that. It's a finely balanced issue. Members opposite have a decent argument on it, but I also think, sir, that the government members have a good argument on this too, and that's the view that the government has come to. Sir, I just want to briefly mention the substantive change that the bill makes in this part of the bill, which is to allow funding investment vehicles, which, as members have noted, was sought by the Guardians. And, sir, this is a useful change, and it's the most substantive change that the bill makes. It brings the super funds, sir, into line with global best practice, which allows them to fund entities which are formed for the purpose or holding or facilitating or managing investments of the fund. Sir, as has been pointed out, this will increase the efficiency and the flexibility of the fund. This will not allow, sir, the super fund to hold a substantial controlling interest in the underlying operating entity. That's appropriate, sir. The other change I want to point to, sir, is the change in Clause 5 of the bill, which prevents the Guardians from being challenged legally by way of judicial review by dint of the argument that their actions are ultra vires. Again, sir, this was considered by the Finance and Expenditure Committee. This is a prudent and sensible change. Sir, I think in the past the National Government, the National Party, has been somewhat critical of the New Zealand Super Fund, or the Cullen Fund, as members have made of it. But I think there is now consensus and unanimity across the House that it's a sensible fund that pre-funds the cost of superannuation in the future. As a parliament, we have a duty to try and make sure that the fund operates in the best way possible so that it maximises the returns for New Zealanders, and sir, the measures that, that this bill advances will do just that.
Call Sue Moroney.